Welcome friends to another r/entitled parents video. Now, I don't mean to sound entitled, but could you hit the like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our first story of the day is by the trans man with a plan. I wouldn't pay my fiance's mother $5,000, so she ruined my life. Now I'm homeless. This story is extremely hard for me to tell because I'm still feeling the effects of it. However, I feel like I need to because the story features the most entitled parent I've ever met in my entire life. This is the story of how my life has been ruined because, like the title states, I refused to pay my fiance's mother $5,000. It started out simple enough. In August of 2019, when my fiance and I were dating, my parents, who I was staying with at the time to care for my stepmother after a surgery, another story for this subreddit in itself, wanted me to leave because they couldn't make love as often as they wished. They told me this in a very abrupt manner and expected me to leave fairly quickly, giving me no time to prepare. My fiancé kindly asked his mother, who he was staying with, if I could live with him long enough for us to get an apartment together. He stressed to her that it would be difficult for us to get an apartment ourselves just starting out, and that while we could cover all the monetary expenses, we would still most likely need a co-signer. She promised both me and him that if we couldn't qualify for an apartment by ourselves, she would co-sign for us. So I moved from Illinois to Florida. Within a week of me being in the house, fiance's mother made our lives a living heck. Despite me landing a job within a week and having to work late nights for said job, she would come into the living room each morning at varying stupidly early hours to tell us we needed to do something productive while she goes back to bed to sleep till 9 a.m. She would complain that we weren't cleaning the dishes we had used to make a meal that we had just made and were still eating. She would gaslight and pick petty fights with my fiancé, then play the victim like a true narcissist. It got so bad that a few weeks in, we decided to rent a hotel room for the weekend just to get away from her and have some time alone. We had our apartment picked out anyway. All we'd need to do when we got back was sign some paperwork and we'd be away from her, right? Wrong. After the weekend, fiance's mother drove us back to her house. On the drive back, she sprung something on me. She wanted us to pay her $5,000. For context, my fiancé was going to be receiving a $9,000 medical settlement a few months from that point. Before he met me, he had told his mother that if he was still single, he would give her $5,000 towards a trailer that they would both own and live in together. Since my spouse and I were dating and very serious at this time, this was extremely confusing that she would demand this. My fiancé tried to explain to her that he'd only promised to give her the money if he was single. She was having none of it and attempted to gaslight him about it. When that didn't work, she turned to me and requested that I pay her the $5,000. I only had about $5,000 in my bank account at the time, so I couldn't do that and pay to rent an apartment at the same time. When she realized she couldn't squeeze blood from a stone, my fiancé's mother finally declared, "Well, I guess you don't have a co-signer then." With my fiancé being on SSI due to injuries that left him disabled and me making minimum wage, her refusing to co-sign on an apartment essentially left us without any housing options. Florida requires applicants to make 3 times the price of the rent on any given place, and rent in our area is very high. Finding a roommate situation that accepts couples is nigh on impossible, and renting houses were out, as well, once again due to not having enough income. My fiancé's mother's behavior worsened. With nowhere to go, we jumped ship and moved to a local hotel, but only 3 months of this drained our finances. We then couch surfed with some of my fiancé's acquaintances, but a lot of them were not good people and we were used and stolen from several times. We ended up sleeping in the deep freezer of an abandoned Hooters until the building was almost torn down on us by construction workers one day. After that, fiancé's mother bought us a tent. How nice of her. And we ended up living in the woods while I tried to hold down my job. We've been homeless on and off for 2 years now. I've been assaulted twice because being homeless has put us in dangerous and unsafe situations. I've witnessed someone almost shoot my spouse. Fiancé's mother didn't care. It even seemed like she was enjoying watching us suffer. Finally, in early 2020, when we were practically begging on our knees, fiancé's mother co-signed on an apartment. A 2-bedroom model we couldn't afford, but she insisted it was that or nothing. But after everything was finalized, she told us we couldn't have roommates. We had to try and keep ourselves afloat during the pandemic, something that ruined my finances more than they already were. When our lease ended in April, Fiance's mom insisted she fulfilled her promise, so she has no obligation to help us, even if that action consigned us to the streets again. We're homeless again now, and she continues to lie about us to the rest of the family, saying we ruined the apartment, which we left in perfect condition, and saying that is the reason she won't co-sign for us again. To tie up this story, I found out recently that refusing to co-sign and watching our finances dwindle was very much intentional on the mother's part. During the weekend, my fiancé and I went to the hotel for our weekend escape. His mother went to a family get-together. We weren't invited to this event. My fiancé has DID in addition to his physical limitations, and the rest of his family ostracizes him because he's crazy. He's a DID system who has well-behaved alters who work well together, so this is utterly ridiculous. But they've treated him this way his whole life. During the family event, someone joked that I probably had more money than my fiancé's mother. The woman gets $5,000 a month due to a combination of a retirement pension and money she inherited from her late husband. I doubt it. According to a family member, she calmly said in response, "Let's see how much that gay slur has when I'm done with her." All I know is I'm hoping the best for OP. I'm hoping that they can find some kind of goodwill program, some kind of housing assistance program. I'm sure there's something out there that can help them. That said, in this situation, would you just completely cut all ties with a person that treated you like that, even if they dangled helping you a little bit? Like, would it truly be worth it? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Our next story is by Wingless Bat Can't Fly. My entitled aunt thinks I'm a lesbian because I shaved my head. Gets surprised when I tell her I'm in fact bisexual. A few months ago, I decided to start shaving my head. I'm a woman, well, gender fluid, I still haven't gotten out of that closet, so most people think that I have cancer or something, but I don't care. I just feel okay this way. But then it came time to go to a family reunion yesterday. Most of my family loved my new look, but as always, my religious aunt and her bratty children had to ruin it all. Let's call her entitled mother, and let's call her children entitled kid and nice cousin. Entitled mother says, "Wow, you really just did that horrible thing to yourself?" I say, "What?" I was distracted. I was just eating ice cream and she walked up to me to say that. She said, "You know, that hair thing. Do you know only lesbians do that?" I say, "Entitled mother, I'm bi, and you know it. Everyone in my family knew I have a girlfriend, so I assumed she knew. Grave mistake." Entitled mother says, "What? How dare you go against our Lord's wishes?" I say, "What? You know it's my life, right? Also, I don't believe in God." I have a short temper, but I was always just tired. It was late night, I was beyond my bedtime, and my migraines were kicking in as always. Entitled mother says, "You are a demon. Are you really trying to convert all of my family into your sick ways?" I was going to respond, but then nice cousin came into the room. Nice cousin says, "Mom? OP? What's happening? I heard screaming." Entitled mother says, "Nothing that concerns you. Get out of here, fatty." She was always so mean to him because he was a mistake. And just to clarify, he's my favorite cousin because he was the only one of them who had treated me like a human being. I say, "Fatty? Have you seen yourself in a mirror?" I said that out of spite. I just hate her so much and my temper was already in a boom for how she treated him and me. Entitled mother says, "What did you say, you little brat?" She continued saying stuff like that and arguing with me. Meanwhile, nice cousin, seeing what's happening, decided to go get my grandpa, a guy in his early 70s whom adored me for being his favorite granddaughter. Grandpa says, "What's happening around here?" Entitled mother says, "Thank goodness you're here. This little witch," yeah, she called me that, her own niece, "here is going to corrupt us all with her demon ways. I don't want her to turn entitled kid into a demon like her." Grandpa says, "What the heck are you talking about?" Entitled mother says, "She's a lesbian. She's going to make everyone like her. I know her kind. She's going to end all of the human race with that crap about free love. I don't understand how you could let her be here." My grandpa sighed, looked at me, and told me to please go to the backyard to eat something. Forgot to mention, but everyone was in the backyard. I was inside eating ice cream because of my headaches, and that I could come back when he finished talking to her. I was on the edge of tears because of what she was saying, so I just took my phone and left the room, and then I went to eat something. I found nice cousin in the corridor, and he apologized for how his mother behaved with me. I told him not to blame himself and to come with me so we could snack on some chips and watch some web series on my phone while grandpa and entitled mother were in the room arguing. An hour later, my grandpa came out of the room with entitled mother. She didn't speak to me for the rest of the visit, but I was okay with that. Later on, she blocked me on every single social media she knew I was on, but I couldn't care less. A few days ago, I got a text from entitled kid telling me to go freak myself for being a corrupt homosexual, so I just blocked her. For anybody that you thought was friends, family, coworkers, whatever, in my book, the best way to deal with it is just be cordial, straightforward, and give the absolute bare minimum of exchanges that you have to. Honestly, there's just not enough time to worry about trying to work around those kinds of people that are just spewing hatred. And our final story of the day is by Ravenclaw1103, entitled Birth Mother Tried to Take My Baby. I, mixed race 21-year-old female, was adopted when I was 1 year old. Since I was 18, lots come out about it. I was adopted with my little brother to a white family with 5 other kids. They first just wanted to foster us, but they fell in love and adopted us. Here's the crazy backstory. The state I lived in was given a grant for all the non-white babies they placed in homes, so a lot of non-white babies were adopted fast. I was born in 1999. I was my birth mother's 4th child. She had all her other kids taken away from her, so she left the state before the social worker got to the hospital. She got pregnant a few months later with my baby brother. Since I was born with drugs in my system, I had withdrawals and had seizures, but was never taken to the hospital out of fear. My birth mom got high and went into labor with my brother while visiting her dad, so we were back in the state she ran from. When my brother was born, the head nurse called CPS. They got to the hospital fast, learning their lesson the first time. My birth mom never saw my little brother. I was a year old and was in the recovery room with my birth parents, and the worker came in to tell her they were taking my brother. Seeing me, they asked who I was. She at first said I was her niece, till my birth dad, not getting what she was doing, told the truth. They took me too, and she never came to court dates. They took us on Thursday, and my now family got us on Friday. We joke that we were a buy one get one free since when they adopted us, the state gave them a discount for keeping us together. She went on to have 2 more kids and 1 was taken and she got cleaned raising her last one. When I was 18, I found her on Facebook and we met. I occasionally visit her. She's a little bit much for me, but when I told my parents her side of the story about how bad she wanted us, they showed me the files that proved otherwise. She even had another couple set up to pay her $9,000 for my little brother, and my parents had to go to court to keep my brother with their couple. What kind of person sells their baby? Well, I had a baby in December. I'm half black and half Caucasian. My husband's completely Caucasian, so our son came out fair-skinned. My birth mom's fair-skinned and my birth dad is very dark, so I'm what they call light-skinned black. My birth mom started calling my son her baby, telling everyone he looks like him and not me. She told me, if someone asks whose baby he is if we're out in public, I'm gonna tell them mine since that's more believable. He was born on the 10th of December, so because of COVID, we were only letting close family who had their Tdap shot, flu shots, and quarantined for a week without symptoms to see the baby in person. It was Christmas Eve, which happens to be my husband's grandpa's birthday. We absolutely adore each other. He tells my husband's cousin I'm the favorite grandkid. They had done everything we asked, and he wanted to see the baby for his birthday. The day before, my birth mom asked if she could come visit the baby. I tried to explain it was only immediate family and all the requirements. She didn't care and showed up to our apartment while we were gone. My mom called me saying she showed up to her house crying, saying we're keeping the baby from her. We felt bad and let her see him. The whole time saying, her baby. She then told me that my dad's birthday was coming up. I was confused because my dad's birthday is in May. She meant my birth dad and was furious when I was confused. I explained to her that since they didn't raise me or help at all, that I didn't see her as my parent. I told her I was grateful for her and sympathized with her, but she had to understand where I was coming from. She stood up with my baby to leave. My husband tried to take the baby back, but she wouldn't, saying, grandparents have rights. She wouldn't sit down and I couldn't help much since I had a rough C-section, so I called the police. When the police came, we explained the situation and she claimed grandparents' rights again. The officer explained to us that it was a real thing, but she would have to go to court though. He gave us our son back, and since, I'm afraid. Well, the good thing is, OP actually clarified later that they called a family lawyer, and the family lawyer said that they would have no case. I'm definitely not a lawyer, but I've never heard of specifically grandparents' rights. I've heard plenty of stories of custody battles and whatnot, but I don't think I've ever heard too many stories, if at all, where a grandparent took somebody to court for the right to see their grandchild. But who knows, maybe it's a real thing. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.